All right, everybody, this is Napalm Jedd Johnson, and this is episode, what episode is it, Alan?
91.
91. Yep. Thank you, Alan. This is episode 91 of This Week in Grip. It's been a while since we heard from James Retarides. James, why don't you tell us about the trip that you went on real quick, man? We were about to get into it before I hit record. I didn't want to lose it, man. It sounded like it was going to be a classic story.
Oh, well, do you want me to talk about the actual travel part of it, or do you want me to talk about Australia?
I don't really care about Australia. I want to hear about the agony that you were in when you were traveling. Yeah. Well, oh, by the way, hold on. We actually did one while you were gone last week, James. And so did you hear the thing where we were talking about the dingoes?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and someone, it was, oh darn, I want to hold on. I'm blanking on his name. 1 second.
I didn't read the comments, so.
Well, I did. I missed anything about that one.
All right. So it's Derek P. Lewis. It's the guy that I talked to everybody about several months ago, where he makes up all of his own equipment out of like plates and stuff that he has laying around and stuff like that. He hits me up with A Cry in the Dark, Meryl Streep, and Quigley actress Laura San Giacomo. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, just listen to Twig. So I didn't know what he meant by A Cry in the Dark, but that's the movie where the lady's baby gets taken by the dingo. He goes, real-life story of a woman put on trial for killing her kid because people didn't believe her that a dingo stole her baby. So that's the one right there that everybody's supposed to go watch. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So yes, let's hear about the saga. Let's hear about the saga of travel overseas, James. Come on.
Well, the trip out there was doomed from the start. It was one of those things where, I show up at the Charlotte airport, and you look at the screen, and we were flying to San Francisco before we were flying to Melbourne. So you look at the screen, and every flight is on time because, why wouldn't they be? It's like 75 degrees and sunny out, except for the flight to San Francisco, which is delayed. So delayed flight to San Francisco. So now we're not going to make our connecting flight to Melbourne. So now we have to go over to American Airlines. And I'm already getting a little bit heated, because this is supposed to be a vacation. You don't want to deal with all of the stress. But we walk over there and we figure out they help us find a flight through L.A. It's going to be a little bit longer because it's got a longer layover that goes, direct to Melbourne after that. So the flight to L.A., fine. No issues at all. We board the flight to Melbourne, and now originally I was supposed to have an aisle seat, so I could just put my legs out in the aisle if I needed to, or get up and walk around if I needed to. But on the flight they rebooked us, I had the window seat, which I guess is better than being in the middle, except for when everyone on the plane can sleep except for you, and you have to pee, and you see your wife sleeping next to you, and you're like, well, I don't want to disturb her, but, she would understand, and, she can fall back asleep. And then you see the older lady sitting next to her, and you're like, oh, my God, they're both sleeping. I don't want to wake them up. So for, close to 10 hours, they slept, and I had to pee the whole time. And so finally I was like, I got to get up. Then I go to get up, and something pops in my lower back because my knees, because my knees were smashed up against the seat so horribly, and I was just wedged into that corner, I haven't figured out who it was, but there was somebody either behind me or in front of me who would fart in their sleep and then wake up and do this lip smacking thing.
Oh, see, that's... I couldn't handle that. Nope, not the mouth language.
Well, yeah, I remember what you said about people crunching and stuff like that. And I was, he would fart, wake himself up, and do this lip slapping thing, go right back to bed.
Too much.
it smelled toxic. It smelled like he digested like a skunk that had already gone through rigor mortis. And it was awful. And I'm sitting there, I was like, wow, I wonder if this could get worse. So finally I'm like, I got to get up. So like I wake everybody up and I get out, and then I walk back to the bathroom. I walk up and I'm like, well, I think there's only like 2 hours left of this flight. But there was still like 5.5 hours left. And I went back into my smashed up position. Okay. Finally we land. Everything's all right. I'm a little jet lagged, but it's like early in the morning. As soon as I walk out into the Australian air, something flies into my right eye. And I think I was so tired that my eyelids didn't work because they weren't like, you know what I mean? They weren't doing their job, like, you know, filtering out the things flying in, like, you know. So for the first
Blink
2
reflexes were
hours
off.
that I'm in Melbourne, I'm holding my hand over my eye, which is watering profusely and is in so much pain. So we got off to a little bit of an inauspicious start. It wasn't that great, but the actual time there was amazing. Like, the time that I had there was great.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I know you don't want to hear about that because that's all good and stuff. You want to hear about my misery.
Yeah.
So do you want me to skip to the flight home?
Yeah, just the flight home now. Well, first off, why didn't you have a bottle with you? Didn't you have a bottle so you can, like covertly relieve yourself? Don't people do that
Do you want to know why,
in the
Jedd?
Carolinas?
Do you want to know why? First
Why?
of all, I got awful aim. I have terrible aim. I'm not one of those people that can even pee with the seat down. I got to lift them up because it's like I don't trust myself, you know?
I learned that trick from Alan.
If I had like a vitamin water bottle or something, that would have been one thing. But see, this is what would have happened, okay?
I need one with a wide mouth on it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, I already saw this coming. Like, I would have pulled it out and started going to the bathroom. Would have easily filled up a giant bottle. Okay, that's how bad I had to go. But I guarantee you, the old lady who was 2 seats down would have woke up, looked right at me while I was peeing into this bottle, and would have been mortified. Because that's how my life happens. That's how things work in my life. And then
Take a chance.
I would have been the pervert on the plane for the next 5 hours who would be awaiting his arrest upon arriving in a foreign country.
Well, don't they give you blankets on that airline?
They do.
Are you an amateur? Are you an amateur traveler?
That would have looked really suspicious. Yeah. And then he definitely would have been labeled the guy with the bad gas. That would have blown right up.
I know, because they would have been like, this is probably the guy that's been, you know, polluting the place.
Well,
you know, and it's
they wouldn't have let you back
on. At
on.
the end of the flight, this guy gets up at the end of the flight, and I'm looking at him, and I know it's him. Okay, I don't want to accuse him, but I know it's him, and I really wanted to say, like, what did you eat? Because whatever that was not the result of airline food.
Yeah.
There's something bad going on inside of you. I think you need a colonoscopy. You got to get something checked out.
Well, it's pretty daring on a flight that long. Yeah, normally you'd want to eat something pretty clean before you jump on for a trip like that.
Yeah, I mean,
that could have been disastrous.
You know, yeah, I limited my fluid intake and all of that. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna, you know, so I don't have to go pee. But of course, you know. But you want to hear about the flight home, right?
Let's do this. Let's table the flight home until the end because I don't know how much more I can take. My face hurts already from the smiling and laughing. So we do have a guest
because the flight home is worse. It's worse.
Dude, I cannot wait. But I know that our guest Nigel Blackburn has to be done around 2. So we'll go ahead and bring him on in now. Nigel, you're on board with us, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. How did you remain quiet through all that? What is wrong with you?
I was trying, man. It sounds like James had a pretty rough time, so I was trying not to laugh. I didn't want that to be the way I'd introduce myself, but yeah, dude, it sounded like a trip.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, you know, thanks for the empathy. Thanks for the understanding and the caring. Everyone else was laughing at my misery, Nigel, so I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, now I can laugh at it, so.
So Nigel comes to us from Florida. What city are you in down there? Tallahassee?
Yeah, Tallahassee, Florida, actually.
Tallahassee, Florida. So,
yep.
So, all right, and the question is, are you a person from Florida who was born in Florida, or did you move to Florida?
I was born in Florida, that's correct. So there's been a lot of memes about us recently, which, some of it's true, some of it's not. So, I'll take credit for some of it, I guess.
What? There was a lot of mooning going on down there? Is that what you said? Mooning?
No,
meaning.
Yeah, Florida's a laughing stock right now. I don't know if you've heard all the news stories, man.
What?
I haven't. Listen, this is a good one.
But what's
going on? Dude, James, would you just hold on for a second and let me hear what the heck is going on here? What did you say, Nigel? What's going on down there?
Dude, just about everything. So there's been a challenge recently about Florida where you enter your birthday and you type in Florida man and then your birthday, right? And then you get back a news story about Florida. So depending on your birthday, you get back a different news story, and it's just going to be something absolutely ridiculous, like man urinates in public park and blames it on somebody, or something crazy like that. So those have been going around recently, and it's been a good time. So we enjoy being a laughing stock, and yeah, it's been interesting.
All right, I'm so glad that I cleared the airways so that I could hear that story. That's amazing. All right.
Absolutely. When I'm off the show, feel free to type in that challenge. I guarantee you'll have a good laugh out of it.
All right. Cool. Cool. If you don't know Nigel, I don't know where you've been. You must not follow Grip very closely. This guy's a monster. He's a 66-kilogram powerlifter turned grip sport competitor. He was the King Kong champion 2018 of the 66-kilogram class. He is an ambassador of grip in the Southeast U.S. region, as he just recently ran the first grip sport sanctioned contest in Florida, including, NAGS has never had a sanctioned competition either. So first ever NAGS and GSI sanctioned grip competition in Florida. Longtime student of mine. Very proud of him. Nigel, thanks a lot for being on the show today. Can't wait to hear more from you and everything. Anything else we need to know about you before we go on?
Man, I think that's about it. I'd just like to say I've been, like Jedd said, I've been a student of him for a long time, and it means a lot to be on the show and everything. Clearly, I'm going in the right direction, so that's always good. Especially this is the pinnacle of my career right here. So just letting you guys know.
That's right, dude.
Yeah.
You have now reached celebrity status. So congratulations.
Thank you, man.
So I'm sure we've each got some questions for you, Nigel. But I do want to say that I am proud of you for running that competition. It was in February. What was the name of that competition, please?
So it was the Seminole Grip Classic.
Very good, and that's named after the Florida State.
The Florida State Seminoles. My alumni. That's where I went to school, so it made sense.
And how old are you?
I am 24.
And you're ripped to shreds. You're 66 kilograms, power lifter, grip guy. Are you single?
No, I am not single. In fact, I just got back from my 5-year anniversary. I went to drink around the world at Epcot. So, if I'm delirious or not making sense, I'm still a little bit hungover, admittedly, but I'm here and I'm having a good time.
All right. Well, you just killed like 8 more questions that I had. So, Alan, why don't you go next? Why don't you ask Nigel a couple questions here?
So, what made you decide to run a grip competition?
Oh yeah, I've been talking to Jedd about it recently, and we just decided, the southeast region of the U.S. isn't really represented as far as grip sport. I mean, there might have been a few here and there, but for the most part, it's kind of barren in terms of grip sport competition. So I was talking with Jedd, and we figured, hey, I think now is the right time to host a grip competition here, and I think we'd get a decent amount of interest. maybe not in the first one necessarily, but just to get the word out there and let people know, hey, there's grip over here, grip sport competition. So.
Absolutely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how about your choices of events that you ran?
So picking out the events, it was a combination of what's going to be relatively easy for people to pick up on and relatively easy to judge as well. I wanted people to be able to come into their first grip competition and not there be a huge learning curve as far as implements. And I think in terms of that, it was pretty successful. Everyone was able to pick up on things pretty quick. So, just going into the events real quick, we had the one-hand flask, the one-hand nightmare from Luke, Arm Assassin. We did the 50 millimeter for that, which is about 2 inches. Did the inch pinch and the 2.5-inch jug.
Nice.
So I think if anyone's listening who's been considering running a grip contest, I think Nigel went about it a very good way, in that he used all implements that use the crossbar. So that way there's absolutely no confusion as to what a complete lift is for these newbie lifters, because if you look at the list of the lifters, there's not a single one on there whose name I recognize, and I think there was only one. Who's the other guy down there, Nigel, that puts up the grip videos now on Instagram?
Yeah, so that's Kyle Rojas. He is, I
Kyle
think
Rojas.
his Instagram handle is like Barbaric Lifter or something like that.
Yeah.
He's been really getting the grip recently.
Yeah, so there was very little experience here across the board for these competitors. So that was one of the things that we talked about. Like we talked about doing like the pinch block, I think, and the hub, and we went away from those just for the ease of judging. And how'd that work out then, Nigel? I would think it would be pretty straightforward for everybody.
Yeah, the only thing that was a little bit foreign for people was probably the inch pinch, and mainly just because people weren't too familiar with the key pinch position. Mm-hmm. But once I showed them that, it was pretty smooth sailing. They picked up on it pretty quick. So
I would have thought
pretty well.
People would have liked that one a little more. I actually really like the inch pinch. The jug was always a hard one for me to warm up to, but the inch pinch, I think that's just a ton of fun. I don't even know why. I just like it.
Yeah, and I think the jug was actually the most technical event in the contest, believe it or not, just because, there's so many things you have to do to position the implement. You have to account for the knock bar swinging around and rotating.
Oh, yes.
Crazy stuff. So that's something I tried to tell people before they started, and I hosted a few grip workshops on weekends beforehand to get people up to par, get people used to the implements, and I was telling them, this thing is going to swing quite a bit, so just get ready for that, and maybe position it here so that's going to hit the crossbar smoothly and everything like that.
That's a good point. I don't know if you guys saw the video that Luke put up yesterday. We trained a bunch of different stuff, and he put the knock bar onto the flask, and he just about took his own leg out doing a 3-finger lift, like 110 pounds or something like that. It really was accelerating yesterday, and it does even more so with the jug. So how did you work around that, Nigel? Like did you cover that in the workshops ahead of time so people were aware of it?
Yeah, I sure did. That was, at first I just told them, this is probably the most dangerous lift you're going to encounter in the competition. So, I basically just told them if you go more supinated, it might be a little bit more dangerous for your bicep. I told them if you go a little bit more pronated, it might be safer. Because a lot of the people we had were strongman competitors. And apparently there's a saying in the strongman world, and Jedd, you might know this, where bicep tears are pretty common or happen pretty often. So we actually had one guy competing that tore both biceps, and I was especially sure to make a point to him that, if you do end up going supinated, the risk reward is not very, I guess, worth what you might be looking for as far as the lift. So
he had torn both biceps previously in strongman competition?
Yeah, both biceps.
Wow.
I don't know if it was in training or a competition, but he tore both at some point in his career.
Wow.
So
yeah. I've seen several, not several. I've seen a handful of torn biceps at strongman contests that I've been to over the years, at all levels, amateur and professional. So it's definitely a risk in strongman and can be. So I'm glad that you took the time to cover that as well. That's good.
Yeah.
How did the workshops go? I forgot about those. How did you run those? And
So basically, what I did for the workshops is I know people have their own work schedules, and so I was trying to be relatively flexible on what times I would allow people to come into the gym and just try everything out. And like I said, nobody had really tried any grip competitions prior to this one. So I tried to give them all the basics, stand over the implement. One of the biggest problems I usually saw was people would stand so far away from the implement, and I had to use that comparison to trying to do a deadlift when you're standing, 5 inches behind the bar, because that was a big problem I encountered, and I was just trying to get them up to par, show them the in and outs of just lifting basic implements before even going into the specifics. But the workshops, they went pretty well, man. I just allowed anyone to come in when they could and kind of worked around schedules just so everyone could try stuff out and have a good time.
Cool, man. That gives them plenty of opportunities to get their hands on them and get a little more familiar with the implements. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else, Alan? You got anything else, or maybe it's James's turn?
No,
I have
James
a
can
few
go.
questions. Yeah, because I've been following Nigel for a while. One of the things that I'd like to ask is about how you've become so patient at such an early age. Because for me, when I was 24 years old, I was nowhere near the level of patience that I needed to train and microload and make gradual gains, and you are always on the upswing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So as far as patience, I attribute that to my sports history. I actually played tennis for about on and off for maybe 10 or 12 years, and patience is a very important virtue in tennis. And on top of that, one thing I figured out over the course of my short lifting career is one of the most important things you could possibly do is prevent injuries. If injuries do end up happening, you could be lifting correctly, you could be doing everything right, but an injury is going to hinder your progress big time. So you need to be able to do maintenance and be patient, and for the most part, just stay healthy. And if you lift the right way, you're going to make progress. But the issue is just not overdoing it, overtraining, and being smart about it.
Yeah, and your lifting background, I think, is interesting too. Like you were involved in powerlifting before, right? At a pretty high level.
Yeah, high level. That sounds flattering. I don't know about too high of a level, but I guess pretty serious for the most part.
Okay. And I saw that. Well, at least I think what I see going on with you, based on your Instagram feed, is that you're shooting for a double body weight axle lift. Are you there yet?
That's correct. I've gotten really close, and I would have been there if I just ate a little less that morning, or that's how close it is. It just comes down to, all right, I need to eat a smaller meal and just do it. So I'm right there. I'm knocking at the door. So.
Yeah, when I was before I went away, because I haven't been really on top of things for the last 2 weeks, but I know you were somewhere around, I want to say like 288 on axle, and I started doing math in my head. I was like, gosh, what does Nigel weigh? I mean, he might be there, So where's your 1 rep max at now?
It's probably about the same. I've been really busy with other stuff recently, so I've been training less, and I've been getting into tennis again too. I actually do have Russia coming up pretty soon. I'm competing for Team US, and obviously one of the big events for that is axle. So I have been training axle regularly, but just not with the same intensity it was, because stuff has been coming up and just a busy work schedule.
Yeah. And that was the other thing I was going to ask you about. I saw
Mm-hmm.
I knew you had qualified to go to Russia. Who do you have in your weight class? Is there anyone? How do you feel about your chances and all that?
Well, unfortunately, there's this guy named Ives, which he's in my weight class, and he's pretty much the man right now. But I just go there and do my best and see what happens. And most importantly, just have fun. I don't see myself going to Russia too many times, so it should be a blast regardless.
Well, the good thing is you got James Retarides that you can talk to about traveling worldwide. So
there you go, and I heard
he'll be able to tell you how to keep comfortable and how to sit in
every continent except for
night.
Antarctica. Yeah.
But one thing that we know already, Nigel, hopefully you heard this, was that get a trip to the bathroom in before anyone that's sitting beside you goes to sleep. Because
get an aisle seat. Get an aisle seat.
Yes, that's really important.
Even if you have to pay
extra. That's a vital
extra.
piece of advice.
Yeah. Yep.
So, avoid people with bad gas if you can identify those people. Just walk.
Yeah, it's not like they have a look to them. That's the problem. If they all had a look, or if they wore a shirt or some kind of identifier that said, I have bad gas, or I don't eat properly, or I have digestive problems. I haven't had a colonoscopy in 20 years.
How do you combat that anyway, do you think? Is it like in the movie Jaws when that guy's character was slinging that crap over the end of it, trying to bait in the shark, and he kept putting Old Spice in his handkerchief and holding it over his face? I wonder if that'd be a good tactic.
That's what I should have done, Alan. Really.
Are you being serious? Was he doing that?
You don't remember that?
I don't remember that. No.
That was Roy Scheider did that. Yeah. He was slinging that chum over the side of the boat. Apparently, it smelled so bad. Yep.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'll tell you what.
Chum some of this shit. You remember that?
Yeah, right.
Nigel's one of my movie quoting friends. So
I can't believe you wouldn't have even existed when that movie was made.
Yeah, but Nigel's, you could tell he's a movie guy.
Yeah, yep.
Dude, I got to put that on my watch list, man. I don't remember that. I just don't remember that, dude. I gotta see that.
Go rewatch it. It's a great movie.
Well, did you see
it was right
I
after
was
that
talking about last week, Nigel? Did you listen to
What's
last week's podcast?
No, man, I haven't gotten around to it yet. I haven't watched it.
What a loser.
I started it, but haven't finished it. Yeah, for real.
The dingo ate your baby. Does that ring a bell at all?
It sure does. They made fun of that in South Park, but where's it from originally?
It's from.
They made fun of it in Seinfeld as well. Yeah.
Seinfeld, yeah.
But yeah, that is a classic movie line.
It's from A Cry in the Dark, apparently, with Meryl Streep, Nigel.
Yeah.
Okay. This Week in Film.
Yeah. Everybody watching.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
This is taking a left turn from the original purpose.
It usually does.
We started off wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, no, when I tuned in, I could tell it was going to be a good time. So when you go to Russia, all right, giant bottle with a big enough top to it,
wide
probably 30, wide enough, like a 32-ounce Gatorade type of thing. Rag with Old Spice in it, aisle seat. So just check these things off. Make sure you check these off.
Listen,
and as close to the front of the plane as possible. There you go.
Here, this is the answer for you, Nigel. This is the whole answer.
Okay.
Before I met my wife, she used to go to the races like NASCAR. I don't even know if it exists anymore. Do they still do NASCARing?
Yeah, I live in Florida. I'm familiar with NASCAR, Jedd.
Okay. I didn't know if they still
You heard of the Daytona 500?
Sorry, but that was the whole slide.
This is beautiful.
So my wife's dad had a solution because they would, I guess apparently it's like BYOB or something like that, or apparently end up drinking a lot of beer at these things because it's so goddamn boring.
Yeah.
You can't just watch the race. You gotta, you gotta suck down like a 30-pack. So he would miss half the race due to all the trips to the bathroom. So he came up with this invention where he would wear a condom the whole time, and at the end of the condom he affixed some kind of a tube, and then the tube would go down his pant leg, and then underneath the bleachers. So anytime he had to go to the bathroom, he would just pee into the condom, and it would flow right out of the tube, right past his foot, and it would go under the bleachers. So there you go. Just have the tube feeding into a bottle, and you're all set. That, or you can just feed the tube all the way back to the bathroom. I don't know if they're going to try to track back what that tube is for, where that's going, but there, your problem is solved. If you got to poop while you're on the plane, you're up to it's up to you. You figure that out yourself.
Your father-in-law did this, Jedd?
Yes, absolutely.
He must have never had like water balloon fights when he was a kid then, where he tried to wrestle the balloon over the spout and have it blow up on you. If he had, he sure wouldn't have tried that condom thing.
Dude, I mean, I wasn't there. This was before I met her, so I can't verify, and I certainly wasn't NASCARing back then, so I wasn't underneath the bleachers like checking for raindrops or anyhow. But
sure,
that's apparently it worked for him.
Well, how it goes is you think you're home free. The bag's like, about 90% capacity. You're about ready to, pull it off and tie it shut and huck it at your friend. All of a sudden, pow, it blows.
Yeah.
And, I think you'd...
It's interesting that you say that. I went to the one Coca-Cola 600 where, like, there was some equipment malfunction and this wire was hanging over the track that fell. And it was like, it ended, because I'm like 15 minutes from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So I was like, I'll go to one race, whatever. I went with my father-in-law and everything. It ended up being like 6.5 hours. There were these guys drinking moonshine out of a bag, out of a plastic bag. It was like Joe Dirt, because they didn't have a shirt on or anything. It was like Joe Dirt and like also Joe Dirt.
It's deer tail.
And I just remember sitting there and thinking to myself, I paid for this. Like, I paid to be here. my oldest son was probably like 10 at the time. He's looking at me. He's like, what are they drinking?
Oh man.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
So yeah, I'm familiar with NASCAR too. Maybe not as familiar with Florida.
Sounds like the majority of NASCAR races to me. I'm sure something like that happens to each one.
Wow.
Oh gosh.
Oh, by the way, viewers, don't get offended if you just love NASCAR. We apologize.
Yeah. Well, never blows your hair back, but
episode has been talking shit about NASCAR the whole time.
Wow.
So anyway, Nigel, this Seminole Grip Classic.
Oh yeah.
It's like hurting my jaw.
Wow. That is hilarious. Nigel, I got a question for you, man. So, have you ever, you've pretty much only ever focused on, like, grip competition lifts, right? Did you ever focus on any feats prior to, like, you and I working together?
Man, honestly, I feel like that's how I kind of got into grip, because everyone sees the phone book ripping, decks of cards, steel bending, and to me that's the most intriguing thing if you're just getting into it. So I remember when we started working together, Jedd, one of our goals was, I think, to tear a deck of cards. Oh. And then once I kind of learned that, there's competitions, I figured, that would be kind of fun. That'd be a good way to compete. All right, where's the closest one? Okay, Elmira, New York. Never heard of it. I'll go there, though. I'm the upper side there. So that was my first contest, and that's how I learned about the contest and everything. So worked on a few feats, got qualified for that, and That's how I got into it.
Okay, that's right. I forgot about that. I forgot about the card carrying.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, I remember the first time I talked to Nigel on the phone. He was he was like the most polite young man I ever met. Like, he was like,
yeah, geez, what happened?
Yeah, dude. He was like, "Excuse me, Mr. Johnson, oh, thank you very much for answering my question, sir." It was very formal, and you know, he sent me a bouquet of flowers afterwards after the first coaching call. It was
yeah,
really
now we're
nice.
talking about condom catheters and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man. Wow. So so you're going to Russia in May.
Uh-huh.
You're gearing up for that now. How long are you staying in Russia, Nigel? You going to turn that into like a vacation while you're over there?
Yeah. So we're going to be there for about a week or so, which, that translates to about 4 days with the amount of traveling you have to do. But we plan to, by the way, I'm going with my older brother. We were planning on making the whole trip out of it, checking a few things out in St. Petersburg, and then obviously the contest will take about 2 days or so that'll take up a good portion of the trip there as well. But the plan is to have a lot of good drinks, eat a lot of good food, and then obviously compete and everything as well. So it should be a lot of fun. We haven't really made a plan yet. I guess our plan was to be more spontaneous, and if something looks fun, we'll do it. So that's what we're planning.
Cool, man. And then when you get back, are you going to jump right back into training, or are you going to
that's what I'm thinking. Probably all in for King Kong of Grip after that, if I had to guess.
Okay.
That'll give me a long time to prep for that, which I'll need because tough competition. A lot of people entering the contest. I'm sure it'll be even bigger this year too.
Right.
Are you going to be hosting one of those, or
yes,
just attending one?
That's a great thing to bring up. I am going to be hosting a venue in Tallahassee, Florida. So,
cool.
Nice.
If you're listening to the podcast, you've been thinking about competing, but you're not anywhere near any of the other venues, feel free to come down to Tallahassee. I'll be hosting one. So
maybe the pickup artists will drive down.
Oh, please
We're
do.
not
That'd
that
be a
far.
blast.
Boy, that would be an experience right there, having all those guys there.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
You sure you want to run the contest?
I was kind of 50-50. I'm leaning towards not doing it at this point. I don't know why I brought it up.
He's gonna run it in Wyalusing, Pennsylvania now. I got a question for you, Nigel.
Yeah.
I recognize the name Laurel Blackburn. That's your mom, correct? On the competitor list.
Yes, that is correct. Uh-huh. So,
what did she think of the contest and the sport and all that stuff?
Yeah, she really enjoyed it too. She's someone who has done just about everything you could think of in fitness. I mean, she's done bodybuilding, powerlifting. If you've heard of the Go Ruck events where you put on a backpack and walk for 120 miles.
Oh yeah.
The triathlons, you name it, she's probably done it. So
cool.
This was just another thing to try out for her, and she really, really enjoyed it. I think she wants to do King Kong as well. And also worth mentioning is her venue, her gym, is where we hosted the event. So.
And what venue is that?
So Boot Camp Fitness and Training. That's where we hosted it. It's kind of near a cheerleading place, which it's interesting because we used to rent out there. We'd be doing our boot camp classes, and meanwhile we'd have this blasting loud cheerleading music, and it was really distracting. But we got through it. We eventually moved spaces to where we are now.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I see you also had another women's competitor, Alexis Rojas.
Yes.
How did everything go for her?
She had a lot of fun as well. She did extremely well. If I do remember correctly, I think she set like her weight class world record on inch bench. Don't quote me on that, but I think so because I remember we were looking at the numbers before she pulled everything. She did really well. She has a strong woman background, so she did a lot of those competitions as well, which obviously transfers over pretty well to grip. So yeah.
Now is that a relation of some sort to Kyle Rojas?
That's correct. They're married, and they're co-owners of Barbaric Barbell, which is a kind of fitness brand. They do clothing, and it's veteran-owned and everything.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So, yeah.
All right. Outstanding. So it's kind of a family deal.
Yeah, pretty much.
You and your mom and the Rojas couple as well. That's cool. That's always good to see. Any other cool information to share? I'm going to run down the list of the rest of the competitors, and
sure,
once I'm done, you tell me if they pulled off anything cool or any notable stuff. All right?
Oh, absolutely. Go for it, man.
Eric Scarborough was in the 105 kilo. Brian Bonilla was in the 105 kilo. Anything about those two
Eric,
dudes?
real quick, while we're there, is he was actually the only guy that competed that didn't go to a single grip workshop, and he still put up pretty good numbers. I mean, he did really well. He was one of the first to sign up. You know, I didn't hear from him for about 2 or 3 months. He shows up and just kills it. Does really well, so it was cool to watch him, and he was pretty much just doing it as I was explaining how to do the lift, so it was cool to see him do his thing.
Yeah. Brian Bonilla, any relationship to Bobby Bonilla?
You know, not that I'm aware of, but maybe ask him about it.
Okay. You just don't see that name
Killer
very
Bees.
often. Yeah. James knows all about Bobby Bonilla.
I do.
Mets fan. He's a diehard Mets fan.
James is not a Mets fan at all. But I remember Bobby Bonilla on the Pirates with Barry Bonds, a much smaller version of Barry Bonds, the Killer Bees.
Yes.
Guys, can we not talk about hockey, please?
Wow.
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
You got it. What about, all right, some cool names here. What about Chuck Dressler, maybe?
Yeah, so Chuck he was a strongman competitor and a fireman, too. And Jesse Lockhart as well. In fact, I would say just about 70% of these competitors actually did strongman or currently compete in strongman.
Cool.
Or like Highland Games or something. The only person that doesn't, it was his first strength competition ever, was Mark Weingartner. So a cool little trivia thing here. Mark Weingartner wrote the prequels to The Godfather, the book.
He wrote the prequel to The Godfather?
Yeah, and there's a few of them. So he is a creative writing professor at Florida State, and he has wrote a ton of books, and probably one of the smartest guys I know, too. He did really well.
Wow, cool.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
David Covan?
David Covan, he also did strongman. He currently does Highland Games. He's the guy I was talking about that did, what was I going to say? He tore both biceps at some point.
I see.
Extremely strong bencher. He used to do powerlifting. He's actually benched well over like 450. I remember because I used to have to spot him. And, you know, I didn't want to say anything, but I'm just sitting there like, hey, man, if you fail this lift, you're kind of screwed. I can't really do much about it. But regardless, I tried to do my best. I was always terrified, scared shitless, but did my best. So
well, sometimes it's nice to just have someone behind you, even if it's like your grandma back there.
Yeah.
There's somebody there.
Nice little safety blanket, I'm sure. So.
He's run around and unload the planes quick or something.
Yeah, I think I'd probably rather have my grandmother back there than Nigel spotting me on bench with the weights I put up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Grandma can't teabag you, I guess.
Everybody joking. So Nigel and I have this thing. We spent a lot of time together at Gripmas this year, along with Chris Andrade, and we were playing the hits in my car, and I put up the song by Logic called what is it? What is it called, Nigel?
Really,
everybody?
Really, dude, it's everybody. Everybody.
Okay.
People.
Yeah, everybody people. Everybody bleed. So everybody needs to listen to that song. So after you're done watching A Cry in the Dark and rewatching Jaws, go make sure to play the song Everybody by Logic. It does have bad language in it. Apparently it's a song that James likes to listen to like every day. So it's a pretty good song. I like it, but It's at the end of it's also at the very end in the credits of the McGregor movie. That's how I first heard it. So since then, every time Nigel and I write one another, it's everybody bleeding, everybody train flask, stuff like that.
Everybody grip, yeah. Everybody care. It's just stuff like that.
Yeah. So cool, man. So that's a cool little competitor rundown. Good to hear all the good things. Did you set any PRs or anything during that event, Nigel?
Trying to think. I think the only PR I set a few comp PRs, but the only PR I set was on the one-hand nightmare, and it was probably 2 or 3 pounds. But I mean, a PR is a PR. I remember vividly. One of my big goals for the competition was setting the world record for my weight class on the flask, which was just north of 88 pounds. So I hit my second attempt at about 84 and went for the third attempt. I just figured, hey, let's just go for it on my third, and if I miss, I'll get another chance to try it. So I went up to it, and it was weird. It was like, when you touch something and they're static and it just shocks you? It's like I touched the flask, and then I just immediately tore without even gripping it. That's kind of what happened. So it was one of those deals where, like, I barely got a pull in on it, and I just looked at my thumb, and, one lift in the competition, it wasn't really worth it. So I just called it there.
Wow.
Well, what I noticed here looking at the results is, so you pulled 171, and there were only 2 weights pulled heavier than yours. So there was a 178 pulled by 2 people and a 200. Oh, I'm sorry, there were 3. There was a 178 pulled by 2 people, a 188 pulled by 1, and then a 200 pulled by 2 different people, and they were all in much higher weight classes. So relatively speaking to the body weight ratio, you held your own against some pretty big dudes, especially considering the fact that they were strongman competitors, man. I think that's something to be pretty darn proud of.
Oh, yeah. I'm proud of with how everything went for the most part. Really, lifts went pretty well. The only thing I was disappointed on for the most part was the inch bench, actually, because it was something I pulled a lot higher on in training at around 72 or 73 pounds and ended up getting 10 less in the competition. It was just one of those things where I didn't know what to attribute it to necessarily, but, it is what it is. But everything else went pretty well. And once we get into results, I'll talk about that a little bit, too, the overall standings and all that good stuff.
Well, one thing that I've noticed is it's hard to really stay on top of everything physically as a competitor when you're running the contest. Did you notice any of that yourself? Like, did you feel off at all, or did you feel rushed or distracted?
Distracted, yes. The other 2, not so much. I can tell you it was a little bit strange because, first and foremost, the priority was to run a good contest. And, if everything else after that was kind of gravy, if I did end up lifting well or, all that good stuff. But I did have a lot of help running the contest. I had, a bunch of competitors doing the weight, changing those. I would just shout out the number. They would do that for me. I had people doing the timer for me. It's worth mentioning that I actually used your technique of if you're following your own lift, you get about 2 minutes or so. So that made it run pretty quick, too. Overall, we got done in, I want to say about 5 hours, which is not bad at all for 4 events.
Yeah, 4 events that are all 4 attempts for max. I mean, that's pretty good. So
yeah, it was very, very smooth.
I imagine you did an appreciable amount of coaching during the event as well to help people with their decision-making process and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I wanted everyone to also do well. I didn't want anyone to get discouraged if they didn't get a good lift in, or another big priority was everyone enjoying themselves and just having a good time.
Cool.
No doubt. Yeah.
Very cool.
Any other questions for Nigel from you guys?
Did you guys have a medley?
No medley. I was honestly thinking about it, but then I figured, my first contest, I probably shouldn't run a medley. I just feel like that would be too much stuff going on. So I kind of opted out of that and just figured, go with events that are pretty easy to judge and put on and everything.
Any cool after contest feats, anything like that?
Dude, it was different, and I don't know if it's because nobody's done a grip contest before, But soon after the contest was over, everyone thanked each other. I mentioned sponsors, said things. People said things to me, and we were out within probably 5 to 10 minutes after we put stuff away. The only after-food thing that really happened was, Kyle picked up one of my number 3s after the contest. He'd touched a gripper like maybe 2 or 3 times in his life prior to that, and just closes my easy 3 just immediately after the contest.
Wow.
Wow.
I was like, dude, really? It was a solid Mash Monster set, and just smashes it. It was crazy.
Wow. That's impressive.
And like I said, yeah, this is a guy that hasn't really touched grippers very often. He actually got his technique, he said, watching your video with Juji, Jedd. So that video is apparently legendary amongst the community that's getting into grip. So speak for a lot of people when I say thanks for putting all that information out there. That was really helpful.
Yeah, man, absolutely. That's what it's all about, helping people improve, reach their potential, no doubt.
Yep. And then one more interesting thing that kind of happened during the meet is we had a lot of kids there because, a lot of parents during the competition. I remember during the inch pinch, well, actually what happened, I split the video into 2 parts on a live stream. So part 1, it was going pretty well. I had my playlist going, and, Metallica comes on. Immediately, the playlist just cuts off, and it's just silent because, Metallica with that whole Napster situation, they don't like people playing their music. So the playlist just cuts off, and thus ends the live stream. So I had to restart it. We played just, kind of obscure music that wouldn't get copyrighted, I guess. And about 10 seconds into the live stream or something, a kid runs behind my desk and kind of knocks against the camera a little bit. And I didn't even notice this, but the live stream camera was just turned directly at my face for about 30 minutes. And, I was supposed to have it turned at the competitors, obviously. So I was so busy, I wasn't looking at the live stream. So I go back and look at it afterwards, and there's, 5 or 6 comments like, dude, turn it around. Nigel, we don't want to look at your head and just stuff like that. So.
So why are you blaming it on the kid, dude? We all know that you just wanted to. Did you have your shirt off like you have on every other video that you post?
Of course. What kind of question is that?
There's a surprise. I can't believe you're blaming it on some poor little kid, dude. I like how you started the show off with like all the parents brought their kids. There was probably like one child there in a bouncy chair or something like that, and Nigel turning his softcore porn fetish. Into a let's blame the kid for everything deal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say about that. So,
yeah, no comeback. Got it. What else, dude? Anything else, man? What about? Hey, you mentioned Kyle grabbed a gripper and closed it. Mash Monster set. You looking at taking a shot at that ladder anytime soon?
The Mash Monster?
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten away from grippers lately, but, eventually when I'm feeling it, I'll probably get back into it and try and take a stab at the 1. Because I got the Mash Monster 0 certification a while back. So the goal eventually is to go for the 1. Matt Cannon was cool enough to lend me one of his, I think, what is it, the Elite or something? Which one is around like 170 or so, or 160?
Which Mass Monster gripper?
Oh, the Tedding, yeah. Which one is it?
Oh,
the Elite.
Elite's probably there, or a T7.
Yeah, I think it was the Elite, but he lended me one of those to kind of train with, and he just told me once you can close this, you got it easy. So that's the goal gripper at the moment. Once I can get back into that, I'll take a shot at the Mash Monster 1, but it'll probably be a good bit before I can attempt that. But, I'm looking forward to it. It'd be a pretty cool feat to pull off eventually.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, I got to get running here pretty soon. Any other questions before I head off or anything?
Yeah, you better.
I never saw this tennis thing
anymore. Sorry, go ahead,
Nigel. No, I never saw that tennis angle. I'd have figured for like an Ironman competitor or something like that. How'd you get into the tennis part of it?
So tennis is something I started when I was actually 5 or 6 years old. my next door neighbor was a tennis coach, and he had a tennis court at his house. So naturally, I actually just started playing tennis and competed in, tournaments and everything when I was younger. I actually would travel a little bit, compete in tournaments, and I got a little bit burnt out of it eventually. So, my varsity, my senior year of high school, I joined the varsity team and played that a little bit, and kind of took another 6 years off. So obviously, I'm pretty spotty on tennis, and I recently got back into it for some fun. So, yeah,
cool, man.
Okay. I'll teach you a lot of stuff. Yeah,
tennis players too. There's been some really good arm wrestlers who were ex-tennis players, including Sharon Remes, who was one of the best. I mean, of all time. He hasn't pulled in probably 15 or so years, but he was phenomenal, and he was a professional tennis player, and he attributed a lot of the side pressure and forearm development he had from playing tennis. So,
wow! I never would have guessed.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, it really is. I would attribute some of my getting into grip and everything from tennis, because I think just from holding the racket and the amount of pronation and supination you have to do probably strengthens the wrist and everything. So that's a good point. I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I've always said, aside from guys who are gymnastics or gymnasts or wrestlers, that the strongest people who I ever arm wrestled with were people who had either a pitching background in baseball or played tennis. Yeah.
Huh.
So
that's
the
really
strongest
cool,
newcomers.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if it's something you want to do in the future, I know a guy.
Who's that? I don't know anyone on this podcast I can ask.
Not me. No arm wrestling here, bro.
I'm just kidding, man. That'd be awesome. Maybe during my contest if you guys make it down.
The guy I know is Luke Raymond, so ask him.
Okay. Who's that?
Ooh. I'll tell you who it is. It's the guy that does grip in Bradford County, apparently, because everywhere I go, people are like, "Aren't you the guy that trains with Luke?"
Oh, man.
I love it.
He's the guy who invented the name.
Jedd's the sidekick.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, have you heard of Lucas Raymond?
They're like, "Oh, you gotta look this guy up.
Beautiful.
He's got the greatest grip in America. He was the national champion in 2018. You gotta look this guy up." I'm like, all right, thanks. I'll try to Facebook him.
I'm into that. That's almost as funny as that one firefighter asking you if you ever saw an inch dumbbell before, or telling you.
Oh, dude, I heard about that. That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got 3 of them at the gym, bro. Got 3 of them. Well, Nigel, thank you very much for taking some time to get roasted today. It was a really fun show. Thanks a lot. Any closing comments before you go hide your head in the ground, or?
I don't think so. I think I'll just go ahead and hide my head in the ground, honestly. Before I do go, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was a lot of fun. So
this was a lot of fun.
Come back on another time. Yeah.
For sure, man. Definitely.
Yeah. All right, guys. You all enjoy the rest of the show. I'll talk to you another time. See ya.
Hey,
all right.
Later, man.
All right, cool. Well, that was Nigel Blackburn, 66-kilogram competitor, champion of the King Kong 66-kilo class, and we wish him luck going to Russia and all of his future grip endeavors. I guess we're back to you now, James. Let's hear about the flight back from Australia.
Oh gosh, it was. It's like it. It really starts like we fly from Melbourne to Sydney, and then the airport at Sydney is like chaos, and you have to get on a bus first of all to go to a different terminal. Like they don't even have a train system, or you can't just walk inside the airport. You have to go outside to a bus and then ride to a different terminal. And then we get to the terminal and we're looking at our flight on the board, and it says to go to gate 24 or something. So there's a sign that says gates 1 through 20 this way, and another sign that says gates 25 through 50 or something this way. But there's no sign that says anything about gates 20 to 24 or 21 to 24. So we're asking everybody you could think of, and we're walking in a big circle. So anyway, we finally find it. It was mismarked on the screen. There was no gate 24, which is why we couldn't find it, even though there were a lot of people in the airport trying to direct us to gate 24, which didn't exist. So then we get on the plane, and there's this really nice Chinese man who's sitting in my seat. So I'm trying to inform him, like, how the letters work, because it's one of those seats that's, like, in the aisle, but it's the middle section, because it's one of those really big planes that has, like, an upstairs, you know what I mean? Sure. So I'm trying to explain to this guy, and he's just not getting it. And I'm like, that's my seat. And then he's pointing next to him. And I'm like, no, that is my seat. That the aisle seat, that's my seat. You're like 5'3", man. You don't need the leg room. You know what I mean? He's not getting any of it. So this was my undoing. I get the attention of this flight attendant. He was a male flight attendant. He was very very friendly. We'll put it that way. Very flamboyant. Very excitable. Well, he comes over, and I'm showing him my ticket, and I'm, like, trying to, like, get him to explain it to this guy. So he explains it to the guy. The guy moves over, but now the guy's pissed at me. So I got to sit next to, like, this angry, like, middle-aged Chinese man who's, like, staring a hole in me. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? It's on my ticket that this is my seat, you know? So I'm like, whatever, all right? But this is why it was my undoing. Because in the luggage thing above me, in the overhead compartment, that male flight attendant puts his bag up there. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever, like, that's fine. So I'm sitting there. I'm in my aisle seat, exactly where I want to be. My screen's working this time, which is great, so I can watch movies. I watched a bunch of movies on the way back. But I have two problems. I have the guy next to me who, to be spiteful, keeps asking me to move so he can get up and walk around. He must have went to the bathroom 15 times, okay? So I had to keep getting up. Not only that, the flight attendant, the very flamboyant flight attendant, he's going above the overhead compartment every, like, half hour to get his bag, to the point where I'm looking at my wife like, how many times is he going to get this bag? Like, really, what is in the, does he have, like, cocaine in the bag? Does he need to stay awake for the whole flight? Like, what is going on? And I don't know if you caught this in my Facebook feed, but in the row right in front of me, there were 3 babies.
Ooh.
3. Okay, so this gets interesting, all right? The flight is already taken off, okay? There's 3 babies sitting there, and one of the flight attendants comes over and says, well, we have to move you. We have to move some of you. And we're trying to figure out, like, what they mean, why they have to move. And they said because in case of an accident and, you know, the oxygen falls from above your head, there wouldn't be enough oxygen to sustain the adults and the babies sitting in the row in front of me. Okay. So they move one of the parents with the babies, and they bring this other guy up who's, like, excited to come up because now he's got leg room because they had, like, a lot more leg room in that section. So he's excited until he starts hearing the crying babies. And the worst part about it was, because what they do in those kind of flights where it stays daytime the whole time, because you're flying back across the date line, and it basically stays light the whole time, what they do is they try to, like, when it's supposed to be night, they try to kind of mimic darkness, you know, for, like, the overnight hours that it would be for your destination. So, like, during when it would be overnight in Dallas, they wanted everybody to drop their shades down. Except the one guy who's in the row in front of us to the right keeps opening his shade up to look down at the Pacific Ocean. I don't know what he was looking at. And every time he did it, a beam of light would come in and wake up the babies, and they'd start screaming.
Oh. Nightmare.
It was, oh yeah. And then people are trying to talk to him to get him to close the shade, and everyone's coughing and hacking. I mean, it wasn't just like there were babies on the plane. There was like, I didn't know if we were flying to a leper colony. I mean, people were coughing like crazy. Like, I'm in the middle of a goddamn petri dish. I look over at my wife, and it's great because, like, she's in a different row, and she's sitting there with this, like, nice young couple, and they're quiet, and they're respectful. And they're having, like, it looks like they have, like, a nice rapport with each other. Like, they're having a good time. You know what I mean? They like each other. And meanwhile, I have, like, small Chinese man sitting next to me, like, mean-mugging me the whole flight. He's pissed because the screen in the back of the chair that he's looking at is not working. And I'm watching movies, and he thinks I'm in his seat, despite the fact that it's been explained to him, maybe not in his native language, but it has been explained to him that wasn't his seat. So in order to be passive-aggressive, what he does is he continues to get me, like, to nudge me to get up. Okay? So I must have gotten up, 30 times. I didn't sleep the whole flight. So we land in Dallas, and we're in the way back of the plane. So it takes us forever to get off the plane. But we have, like, this tremendous layover. It's like 6 hours. So we have plenty of time because we have to go get our luggage because we're flying in from an international location. We have to go back through customs and all that other stuff, get our luggage, come back through security, check our bags, like the whole rigmarole. So now it comes time to board the final flight. Now this is in Dallas, and we're flying from Dallas to Charlotte. And I am, like, operating on no sleep. And, like, I'm just trying, like, I get into this mood where I'm like, I'm fine. I just need to be left alone. So, you know how, like, this sort of quasi-line forms when you go to get on the plane? Like, everybody, like, gets up, but nobody's really in line, and they wait for their group number to be called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not even really in that line. I'm like to the side of it, and I'm standing there, which is to be understood because I was just sitting on a plane for 16 hours. So I'm standing there, and I hear, like, these women behind me, and they're talking about how, oh yeah, like, everybody just, gets up and gets in line, and it's not even their group number, and they're just confused the process and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I hear them, and I'm like, just, I'm standing to the side. So I'm hoping, like, nothing happens that involves me. I'm just trying to stay out of it, because I'm not in any kind of mood. So, of course, one of them comes up to me and says, what group number are you in? Are you in group 6? And I said, no, I'm in group 7. And she gives me this, and she pushes the stroller over my foot. So I look at her and I said, was that necessary? Like, that whole little passive-aggressive little show you just put on, was that necessary? She goes, well, you're kind of in the way, and I'm traveling with children. So I was like, oh, I see. So you can be judgmental, critical, run me over with your foot, and then try to seek empathy from me? I was like, how's that going to work? I was like, I don't think that's a philosophy that's going to be a winning one for you in life. And just then I start seeing people pulling out their phone, like they want to film what's going on. So I was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? And I just sort of backed up and didn't say anything. And I waited for my turn to get on the plane. And, of course, as soon as I get on the plane, I sit down. And, I'm flying back into Charlotte. So there's like these two redneck people behind me that are talking like, oh, God, I mean, it's like the worst part of Fox News coming out of them. And I'm just like, I said to my wife, I said, please just give me my headphones. I can't put up with this shit right now. Like that. So, flew in, got off the plane very late Friday night, and the night still wasn't over. But, yeah, that's the travel part of it. But like I said earlier, Australia, fantastic. Love that place. I'd go back. I'd even go back to live. I loved it there. It's tremendous.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just the flights, just the travel. Not a fan.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, look, I've made a couple long flights, haven't gone to Dubai, and the last time I went, I was in severe pain because of my back on the first one, so having to deal with people in that condition would not be any fun, so I feel for you having to deal with that kind of stuff at the end of a long trip that came after 2 weeks or so travel. It all adds up and can be quite a weight. So
yeah, I mean, if I was
we're able to get through it.
Yeah, if I had some sleep, or I wasn't on that 15-hour flight, or 16-hour flight, I would have been a lot better at being able to manage that lady at the airport, but I just was, it was just a bad time. She picked the wrong target, we'll put it that way.
Right.
At the wrong time. But she was like, I'm traveling with children. And I was like, okay, so be passive-aggressive and critical and judgmental. Run me over, roll your eyes at me, and then seek empathy. Yeah, okay. I just flew in from Australia. Where's my empathy?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the compassion? So yeah, I started putting on my own little, Don Rickles routine with her, and then I finally was just like, yeah, James, let's unplug from this. Let's go to our happy place. So that's what we did. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway.
So did you see any dingoes when you were in Australia?
No dingoes, but a whole bunch of koalas.
Thank you, Alan.
Saw kangaroos. Saw echidnas. I don't know if you guys know what those are.
What are they? What was it?
It's an echidna. It looks like a cross between like a porcupine and an anteater.
Oh my God, that'd be horrifying.
How do you spell
No,
that?
they're cool. They're like these little brown things. They're really cool looking, and they're docile. I mean, we had one like 4 feet from us, and he like looked at us and saw us, and he was like, "Look, I'm just eating grass over here, or insects out of the grass or something." So,
that's how they're just like running around like what we have squirrels and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
that is not spelled anything like it sounds. It's ECHIDNA, and that is an ugly little bugger. Holy cow!
It's like echinacea or something, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kangaroos are kind of like deer, man. Like where you would see deer here, you would see kangaroos out there, and they flock together. Like in one of the areas that we were, they say you can see mobs of kangaroos, like a whole bunch of them sometimes. But we were there; it was pretty hot and dry, so they weren't like out in groups. But yeah, man, like the koalas were up in the trees; they were pretty cool.
Those would be cool.
And yeah, it was great. We went to this rainforest along the Great Ocean Road and stuff, and saw the 12 Apostles, which are amazing. So yeah, it's a trip I would certainly recommend. It's just you might want to sedate yourself for the flight or something.
Mm-hmm.
Inject yourself with something that would knock you out for 15 straight hours. So
Alan,
you're well
you got to look
rested
up
when
this
you arrive.
echidna, man. This thing is ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to.
An excellent words with friends word to have under your belt. This thing is just scary.
All I know about Australia is what I've seen from like Crocodile Dundee and Quigley Down Under. So seeing James's pictures, I had no idea it was like it was. I thought there was sand.
Crocodile Dundee.
Kangaroos.
I watched that. I watched that not too long ago, and I have it on DVR. And it started just at the point where the lady is going down into the water to refill her canteen.
Oh yes.
And do you remember?
You just keep rewinding that part, Jedd. It didn't start there.
Well, that's where that's where the DVR part starts. When she says, "Oh, you don't think a Sheila can make it in the bush?" And she like fires the gun like 4 inches from his foot, and then takes off. And then
remembers it all.
Refill her canteen in the Giardia-filled swamp in Australia.
Yeah.
And then as she's doing it, she wins like a tug of war with like a 6-ton alligator. And luckily, Mick Dundee's over there watching her scantily clad in the bushes doing who knows what, and can like jump up and save her by not only driving the knife into the head of the alligator, but then twisting it. It was fantastic. But she must be super strong. She must do some like neck training with the neck flex or something, and she must be a student of Mike the Machine Bruce.
Yeah.
Because she held that thing off like for about 18 seconds until Mick Dundee could finish, wipe himself off, and go save her.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's really cool, and it's almost surreal because you're still in the city of Melbourne. You can go to the St. Kilda Pier, and you can watch the penguins, which is like,
really?
You know, when you're in a city that's that big, you expect the waters around it to be murky, and it was so clean. And there's penguins. It's surreal. You see penguins, parrots, cockatoos, just out in nature. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty great place. It's pretty it's pretty untouched. You know, it's almost like it's almost like what you would see in tropical areas here. You know, like south of here. You know, but in a city, it's wow. Pretty cool. I recommend it as a trip, man. I really do.
Awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's real cool. Well, did anybody see any feats worth mentioning before we wrap up the call today?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, Serco Peterman had set the record on the Dub Hub.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys didn't talk about that yet, right?
No, we didn't. No, that just popped up
I
on my feed
that
this morning.
Yeah, he pulled. Let me bring it up really quick. He pulled. I want to say like, where is it? Oh, here. 97.5 pounds on the deep side and 67.4 on the shallow.
Let me tell you something, man. Like, I've been watching him very closely, and he's a thinking man's gripster. Like, I've noticed some of the things that he does with his technique on some of those implements, and like he's really pulling out all the stops as far as like optimizing technique and stuff like that. That's a guy to watch and follow and try to pattern yourself after, because he's doing a lot of the right stuff, in my opinion. And that's very impressive to have the record on both sides of the Dub Hub, no doubt.
Well, I got to see what he's doing on that shallow part, because that's interesting. You know, because his grasp on the deep side is the, you know, more. I understand barrel strength has their own. You know, it's very loose rules on that. I'm fine with that. But you know, he uses more or less a V-bar technique. But I'm curious how he does it on the shallow side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he has to try to get something like that as well, or how he does that, because that's that's a big number, you know, mid-60s.
Well, I think it'd be hard to V-bar a shallow side of a Dub Hub.
Yeah, I don't know how he could do that. I really got to take a look at that.
No, that's actually what he does. He V-bars
really?
the shallow side as well.
That's just an index and thumb thing barely at that point then.
Correct.
That's really got to be rough.
Yeah,
wow.
And he also lifts it backwards, so kind of like moon top-ish, the way that he lifts it. So
I caught that. I wonder about that. Yeah, I'll have to take a closer look at that. I saw he lifted those backwards, and that reminded me of how, you know, Gil lifted on like the Legends anvil, or not the Legends anvil. Well, yeah, it was, wasn't it? At Living Legends. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I wonder what it must give you some advantage. But that was just a weird way of doing it. I had to watch it a little closer.
Yeah, check that out. Other than that, dude, it's tax season. I haven't done anything online to speak of, unless people are tagging me. So I really don't have anything to report as far as feats. I know that there's been a lot of people putting up PRs and things like that, but I didn't really document any of them, unfortunately. How about you, Alan?
A bunch of people have been certain the red nail, it seemed like, lately. At least I've seen a lot of stuff popping through on that, but that's really about all I caught. I haven't seen much from any other people, really. So
I know that one thing I saw was Gary Stewart made a post, James, where he took a year off of bending and really focused on grip, and then someone challenged him to bend some steel bar, and he was still bending what he was prior to that, and then he certified the red nail in a fashion that I'd never seen before, doing all three of them in a minute, and now he's chasing the gold nail. So that's pretty exciting to hear about someone that we talk about here on the show quite a bit, who's got his goal, got his sights set on something so prestigious, and absolutely wish him the best on that.
And what I will say is he's training it in a way that I haven't seen anyone else train for it either. He's using a method that I don't think anyone's even considered. So I think he's going to get there, and B, the other thing is and the 3 reds in a minute was really super impressive. Now, I mean, he's getting closer to 8 in a minute. So he's going up in everything that you could conceivably do grip and strength-wise. He's making incremental, very steady gains. So he is, and his weight is coming down. So it's he's really onto something. What he's doing, he's doing it right.
That's cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
The only time I remember anybody talking about bending multiple reds in a minute for speed like that was, this is going to sound bad. It was me and Eli way back in the day. Now check this out. There was a film crew that came from Australia and filmed us in Towanda, Pennsylvania for a TV show that was going to be on in Australia back in
cool.
2005. It was, and I don't remember what it was, but we had to wrap up 3 red nails and do them as fast as we could. And it was cool. We had 6 people there. Dan Senadoza and Luke Whippo came up from Maryland, from Baltimore area, and they did the show with us, and it was the crackers versus the non-crackers. So basically they were trying to figure out whether or not cracking your knuckles helped, inhibited, or was neutral for your grip strength by running different grip challenges based on whether we cracked our knuckles on a routine basis or not. So I was on the cracker team. I don't even remember who else was with me. Eli was on the non-cracker team, and we had to bend 3 red nails. But we did not do them in Iron Mind pads. We did them in the fattest suede leather wraps that you could imagine.
Well, on the subject of bending a bunch of red nails, didn't Tommy Jennings bend a boatload of red nails in less than a minute or something like that? Seemed to me I saw a video of that.
Yeah, I thought I saw a post where Tommy was talking about somebody who bent several in a minute, and I don't think he was talking about himself, but I could see Tommy doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an older video of that. Oh.
Yeah, Gary's using a method, and he refuses to bend in anything but single imps. So he's it's where a lot of people will go to suedes or leathers, double them up. You know what I mean? He's just doing single iron mind pads for all of his bending training because he doesn't want to create conditions that will make it that'll give him sort of a false sense, I guess.
Oh, sure.
So he's gradually, very gradually working up to the poundage of a full gold nail bend, and he's making steady progress. He's going to get there. Unless there is some kind of injury, he's going to get there.
No, I like that idea. Yeah, I definitely agree with the false sense of security, if you will, of doing something different because it takes your baseline away from you. So I like that, how he's going about that. Yeah, sticking with that.
Yeah, and he put his mind together with it was a meeting of the minds between him and Aaron Corcoran on how he could get there and how to graduate, up to the gold nail. And man, he is making progress, and I guarantee you when he gets there, which he will, the method that he's using, which I don't want to go into too much detail about, but the method that he's using is going to be the one that's going to be adopted by steel benders. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I got kicked off there, guys. But what I was going to say is, like, I was not even able to bend the nails all the way in that time limit. Plus, we were using super thick suede, and if we were doing the iron mine pads, we wouldn't even have gotten them. So, it's just I was just going to say that, like, his feat of doing the 3 inside of a minute with time to spare was just really, really mind blowing.
Yeah,
I think the to crack or not to crack would be a neat show topic about knuckles.
Yeah.
That's something I've always done for years, and everybody kind of cringes when they see that. It's like, oh, don't do it, and So yeah. I had no idea people were making that correlation grip strength wise. No, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea either. I was trying to figure that out. But to bring it full circle, if you go to a NASCAR event, a lot of crackers. And I don't mean it's knuckles. So.
I'll admit that's actually the angle I thought Jedd was going at first. So that was
Well, check this out, man. It's funny this comes up. I saw on a website called rheumatologyadvisor.com. It was an article about whether or not cracking your knuckles is actually bad for you, good for you, whatever. And it did at the end came up with this. Multiple studies have indicated that there's no evidence to suggest cracking knuckles causes or worsens arthritis. However, chronic knuckle cracking may lead to reduced grip strength, and there have been occasional reports of tendon injuries and dislocations.
Well, that's interesting, though, about that. I never really delved into it. It does suck, I guess, that it makes it sound like your grip strength might diminish, because I've got 4 decades of knuckle cracking behind me, so could have used that tidbit a little earlier.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. He doesn't say anything about that on the Grip Authority about not cracking your knuckles.
Well, yeah, I know. It never even dawned on me that would be an issue.
Yeah. Oh. Hey, so how'd you ever get that thing out of your eye?
Oh, how did I end up getting it out of my eye?
Yeah.
I was sitting. We went to this market in the central business district and got drops, and I put a bunch of drops in my eye, and then I just sat there with my eye closed for a little bit and looked up at a light, and then the next thing you know, it was gone. My eye was back to normal, and I was like, yeah. But I was still kind of cranky and moody, so I was like, man, I got to get back to this hotel pretty soon and get some sleep. So,
right. I
just got a little notification from Jedd, though. He said, wrap it up, because he keeps getting bumped off.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, this was a fun one. Everybody, thanks for listening. Episode 91. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to comment down below, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back next week with another one.